Who are you and what do you make?
I'm Doug Stewart. I live in Healdsburg and I farm in Boonville or Anderson Valley. I make our farm, it's all estate wine. So we make Pinot Noir and Sparkling and Pinot Gris. All of our wines are some portion, all of some of Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, because that's all we have planted. And everything we make is all estate. We have a 7-acre meter by meter organically managed estate vineyard, and we make everything right there on the farm. I happen to be talking from Healdsburg today, but I'm up there every day typically.
So why do you make what you make?
So Anderson Valley can only ripen certain varietals, so cold climate varietals, Riesling, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Noir. And we really can't ripen even most of the other varietals. So we can't ripen Bordelais like Cabernet. We can do okay with Syrah in some places in the appellation, but not in all. So that's why our list of options is small, but that's actually why I chose to buy a farm in Anderson Valley, because those are the wines that I like. I like Sparkling, which is cold climate varietals, and I like Pinot Noir, cold climate varietal, and Anderson Valley is the coldest appellation in the US. I should say wine growing appellation, certainly in California, partly because we are so close to the Pacific Ocean and our river valley points directly out at the Pacific Ocean, and more specifically, it points at Alaska. And we are always getting hit by the Alaskan current winds. So we have very cold nights year round, and we have cool days relative to other wine growing regions. So the reason I planted Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris is my last venture, which was represented by Springboard Wine Company, called Brago Cellars. I should say my first wine venture. I made a name for myself as a Pinot Gris producer. Robert Parker called my second effort the finest Pinot Gris ever in the New World. And so we got accolades from virtually all of the reviewers on that particular varietal. And so I thought, well, if this is going this well, maybe I should plant some. And so that's why Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris specifically. I wish I had Chardonnay.
And what makes you different? As in, why should people care about lichen?
Well, I think what my friends tell me, and I'm being serious about that, is that our wines are actually different. Like if you put line our wines up in a paper bag alongside even other Anderson Valley efforts, ours seem to be distinctive. And I credit the vineyard for that, meaning we are growing the wine in a very different way from all of our neighbors, doing meter by meter, which is how all Grand Cru Burgundy and Champagne are grown meter by meter, which means very tight spacing. The row width is about this wide. And then different distance between the vines within the rows that wide, so meter by meter. And the French have, been growing Burgundy for 700 years, Champagne for hundreds, and they decided, based on that experience, that high density was requisite for high quality. And so I was a history major, not an enologist in college. And so I took the history as determinant in that case. And so, by the way, another picture just came through on my phone of not stuff that we want to look at. Anyway, so that's the way I planted it. And I would say that from a winemaker standpoint, I'm relatively hands-off. In other words, there's not a lot of intervention, if any. There's not a lot of manipulation. So what you taste in the bottle is what the vineyard's tasting like that vintage.
So shifting gears a little bit, what, if anything, have you learned in a positive way from all the shelter-in-place quarantine lifestyle we've been living?
I'm going to prefer to answer that question from a business standpoint,
Okay.
because I think there's all kinds of crazy from the standpoint of being a husband and a parent and a sibling and a son. All kinds of crazy and sad, I think, especially with my parents. Their isolation is really hard be around, or not be, I shouldn't say be around, to watch and not be as present as I would like to be for my 83 and 87-year-old parents, respectively. From a business standpoint, it's actually been a little bit of a blessing, strangely. We took the 100 days that we were closed, meaning Gavin Newsom ordered us closed on, I want to say, March 17th. And we opened, I want to say exactly a day or two within 100 days later. And I took that time to completely rethink the way that we were offering tastings and experience at Lichen. I hired a friend who had done that for a couple of other wineries, but most recently for Flowers, which had opened last year. And I went with my closest friend from college. We went and tasted at Flowers, and I just thought, wow, this is just such a spectacular experience. Whereas Lichen had done the most basic, sidle up to the bar and, you know, grab a taste, and then you go away. You buy some wine and you go away. Now we do all sit down, only by reservation. And I think people are having a much better experience. We also have done, when we reopened, we did a food and wine pairing. So we're now offering food if people want it. It's not a forced, you're not required to eat it. So it's a different, we call it the élevage versus the harvest tasting. But having that time of being forced to stop is a rarity. And I think of the fires in last October, and I call that week evacuation week, because how often, and we've had it a couple times, we had it in 2017 and then 2019, where we're literally forced out of town, and the National Guard is at all the entrances to Healdsburg, so you can't get back to your house. It's a blessing because we had a week with our kids that we didn't expect, as a family, mostly hanging around in San Francisco and doing stuff like going to the Golden Gate Bridge and the museums and stuff that we wouldn't normally do in October, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's a blessing in disguise. I think, does that answer your question?
It does. It perfectly answers it. Thank you. Do you personally have a hobby that you kind of have leaned on to help you deal with all this insanity?
I wish. No, yeah, I bike. And so one of the things that's been a bummer is a big part of the insanity since August 16th is smoke.
Yeah.
And I'm not a smoker. So I haven't been biking to cope with this most recent insanity. With the COVID, it's interesting. My family truly quarantined, sheltered in place. Farming is not one of those things that you can stop doing. Right. And then we, as I said, were very active reshaping the winery safely, meaning people were masked and people were, we didn't allow, multiple people in the facility at once, but I was basically at it the whole time. So I wasn't really isolated or sheltered in place or whatnot. I went to the winery every day.
What is your soundtrack for this year? Anything you've been listening to more than others?
You have a new one. I keep on going back to the old ones, White Buffalo, and yeah,
the old friends.
Yeah.
Going back to see old buddies. I like it. Okay, final question, and the most depthful. What's your drink? Desert Island. Doug is only allowed one drink for the rest of his life. You can't say your own. Really?
Do I have a refrigerator? No. Oh, I thought it was much more broad than that. I was saying sparkling wine, champagne in general.
Okay, well that works.
Yeah. No, I make it for a reason. Yeah. I actually, it's interesting. Unlike many, I don't drink much hard liquor, and because it's already a slippery slope. So I don't drink much liquor. I love a good cocktail, but I don't keep hard liquor at home. I make what I like. So I love Pinot Noir, I love Burgundy, I love sparkling, I love champagne. It would be one of those. Even though I don't think
enough people drink champagne or sparkling wine all of the time. We should, It's like people trying to get people to consumers to drink rosé all year. It's like, the sort of industry mission to get people to drink sparkling wine all the time.
I would be a lost cause. Yeah, no, I keep telling people sparkling is not just for breakfast.
I like it. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking a few minutes amidst the insanity of Harvest 2020.